So today we are going to discuss about how to declare the object oriented programming language. Oops. So many of you know how it will work. Okay. What is class? Okay. What is an object? What is constructor? Method, static, instance, this, super. Okay. సో ఈ టాపిక్స్ గురించి డిస్కస్ చేద్దాం. క్లాస్ అంటే ఏంది అసలు? ఓకే. క్లాస్లో ఏమేమి ఉంటాయి వాటి గురించి ప్లస్ వాట్ ఈస్ క్లాస్. So a class is a group of different methods. So it will perform different methods. Okay. Class is a group of methods. So it will perform based on a specific method, specific action it should perform. Okay. In the each class. So there are different types of classes. So those we are called as access modifiers. Those we are called access modifiers. So public first of all, before going to the class, we'll discuss about what is an object. An object. Object is a instance of object is nothing but an instance, so which will contain different properties. Object is a object is an instance which contain different properties. That means, see, we created one custom object, right? Student an object lo em fields create chesam. Something name. What is the data type?
Register. Name is the text.
String. That is the text data type. Okay. Student is the object. So an instance object is not an instance which contains different properties. Different properties mean which contains rows and columns. Which contains rows and columns. Rows are nothing but records. Columns are nothing but fields. Okay. Ardhamayinda? In Salesforce, object is an instance which contains rows and columns. So here name is a text, that is one column. Okay. And then something gender, that is different property, right? It's a pick list. something, age is a number. Okay, these are all different numbers, right? For example, here name name gender. I'm going to create a record. Okay, so this name Ashok, gender male, age 20. Same likewise. Adesh, male, and age is 23. Astan, సో ఇవన్నీ కాలమ్స్ ఏజ్ So here, these are all the columns. These are all the name, gender, age. So how many records are there? There are 3 records. Ashok, Adesh, Mastan. Okay. So now I want to create an instance. I need to create a record through Apex. Okay. So how would you declare? I will declare student, same like list. Okay. Student _C, something variable name equals to new student. Okay. So here, if I want to insert the data to this respective fields, name, gender, age, so how do you refer? You need to refer like this, student. So through the variable name, object instance variable name, we can able to refer the properties of that particular object. So what are all the properties available under student? We have name, student dot name equals to something, student dot gender equals to female. Student dot age _C something 24. Okay. So here, so if you want to insert a single record, just what you need to do, you instantiated student record, student object, okay? Through that variable name, you are assigning the values. So for the name, I am assigning Pooja, gender, female, age 24. So now what I need to do? I need to insert, right? INSERT, insert student. For example, if I want to insert bulk, okay, number of students, more than one student, how should I declare? Can anyone tell? This is a single student record I am inserting. If I want to insert bulk, what I need to do?
Add all.
List of students.
What is the declaration we need to do? So if I want to list of student records, then how should I initiate? This is a single record, right? If I want to list, what I need to do?
List of student
students.
variable is equal to new list of
List of-
student.
Adi. List of student _C something students equals to ఏరో అలా
New list of students.
సేమ్ అక్కడ మీరు లిస్ట్ కాన్సెప్ట్ ఎలా లిస్ట్కి స్ట్రింగ్స్ యాడ్ చేస్తున్నారో ఆ స్ట్రింగ్ ప్లేస్లో మనం ఏమన్నాం స్టూడెంట్ అనే ఆబ్జెక్ట్ని పెడుతున్నాం. అర్థమైందా? మనం స్ట్రింగ్ ప్లస్లో ఏం పెడుతున్నాం? ఆబ్జెక్ట్ నేమ్. ఓకే, లిస్ట్ ఆఫ్ స్ట్రింగ్స్ యాడ్ చేసాం అక్కడ. ఇక్కడ లిస్ట్ ఆఫ్ స్టూడెంట్ అనే రికార్డ్స్ని యాడ్ చేయాలి. లిస్ట్ ఆఫ్ స్టూడెంట్స్ రికార్డ్ని ఈ లిస్ట్కి యాడ్ చేసి ఫైనల్ లిస్ట్ని ఇన్సర్ట్ చేయాలి. అర్థమైందా? అర్థమవుతుంది. లిస్ట్ డిక్లేర్ చేశా. ఇప్పుడు ఏం చేయాలి నేను?
Student dash
ఆ లిస్ట్
add
చేస్తాం. సో అప్పుడు సేమ్ థింగ్ స్టూడెంట్ 1 అని సింపుల్గా ఇక్కడ ఏం చేస్తున్నాను, ఏం చేయాలా, దీనికి యాడ్ చేసుకోవాలి కదా లిస్ట్కి. స్టూడెంట్స్ డాట్ add up. Can anyone tell which one we need to add? Record, right? Add up. That means this student record added to the list of students variable. Okay, అర్థమైందా? ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ నేను ఇంకొక స్టూడెంట్ కూడా ఇన్సర్ట్ చేయాలా, అప్పుడేం చేయాలా? సో ఇప్పుడు ఏం చేయాలంటే ఐ నీడ్ టు ఇన్సర్ట్ వన్ మోర్ స్టూడెంట్ వేరియబుల్ ఫర్ ద సేమ్ రికార్డ్. యూ నీడ్ టు యూస్ something student2. okay, just you are changing the variable name and then variable name dot name, variable name dot gender, added, right? Sorry, this is one. So now I'm adding another student, something, let's take it as a student2. student2 dot gender, student 2 dot dot. So finally, so how to add this student to the list? Students dot add of student 2. సో ఇప్పుడు లిస్ట్ ఎంత ఉన్నాయి, లిస్ట్ సైజ్ ఎంత, ఈ లిస్ట్ సైజ్ ఎంత ఇప్పుడు 2. Why? Because we added 2 student names. అర్థమైందా? ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉన్నాయా? సో ఈ లిస్ట్ డిక్లరేషన్ అర్థమైంది కదా మీకు? సి మనం ఇలానే యూజ్ చేస్తాం. నెక్స్ట్ మనం ట్రిగ్గర్స్ రాసేటప్పుడు, ఓకే, ఏదైనా ఆబ్జెక్ట్కి ఇన్స్టెన్స్ క్రియేట్ చేయాలంటే, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ స్టాండర్డ్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్కి ఏముంటుంది, అకౌంట్ ఏసీసీ సంథింగ్ వేరియబుల్ నేమ్ వాట్ ఎవర్ యూ వాంట్ ఈక్వల్ టు న్యూ అకౌంట్, ఓకే, త్రూ ఏసీసీ డాట్ నేమ్, ఏసీసీ డాట్ అకౌంట్ నెంబర్, and then you can insert. Okay, if you want to add list of accounts, you need to add each and every record. అర్థమవుతుంది చెప్పేది? సో అలా యాడ్ చేస్తాం. So object instantiation would be like this. Now we'll go to classes. So a class contains, what is class? Class contains objects, variables, okay, methods, constructor, and business logic. Okay, what it will contain? A class is an object, so different set of properties. A class contains objects, variables, methods, and constructor and business logic. So what is the main business logic? That is also available, objects available, variables and methods. Okay, అర్థమైందా? ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఫర్ ద క్లాస్ public class account controller, class name, this is the class name. So always this public called, this is a access modifier. What does it call? It is called access modifier. Public, by default any class always start either it is a public, private, global. Okay, public, private, global. So there are 3 ways we can able to declare. Okay. So public, private, or global class by default class. What is the name of the class? Account controller. Account control. Name of the class is account controller. So in this class, I'm going to create a one method. Public static void create account. Create. So any method name, okay, any method name which starts with lowercase. Method name which start with lowercase. Okay. So here you can pass input parameters or nothing. So if you don't want to, if required, if you have any input, you can pass the parameters. If you don't have any input, if you want to create directly an account record, just in that method you can declare the object. You can declare the, so here account ACC equals to new account. So here ACC dot name equals to something. Let's suppose, is there any input? Okay, I'm passing string name. Okay, so ACC name equal to ACC name, comma ACC dot account number equals to ACC dot account number equals to something 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So here I'm going to declare string ACC name equals to Ashok. String ACC name equals to, so here I'm declaring it should be available publicly, entire this class, something public. So in this situation, we no need to pass here. We can able to access anywhere in the particular class. Okay, you can mention inside class, right? Private static, so this will not change. String name, so directly you can use this account dot name, and then what you are doing, create account here, insert ACC. So here so we instantiated one object. Okay, we instantiated one object, we created one method, public static void create account. So this is the method. So when we call this account controller as a method, create an account, so automatically inside the logic, so it will instantiate one object. So for that object, for name field, we are assigning this ACC dot name, ACC name, and number we are getting some static value. And finally, what we are doing, insert operation, insert ACC. So create account, this what it does, it will create a new account when we call this account controller class. So this class contains object, something private static string, so this is a variable name, okay, and methods, and what is constructor. Okay, when class loads, at the time itself constructor will call. When class is loading, at that time itself, it will create an instance of that particular class. That is called constructor. So now just I will explain you later about this constructor. So class contains objects, variables, methods, constructor, and business logic. Okay. So through method, we will execute the logic. Okay. So variables are used to assign the values within the particular class. So if you want to insert some particular records, for that record, we need to create an instance that is called an object. So here object is account object. So for that, we are assigning name as something one different value. What is the account number for this account, for this object? Okay. అర్థమైంది చెప్పింది ఇక్కడ. So there are, what are all the access modifiers? What are the access modifiers? So private, private, second one public, third one global, fourth one protected, main access modifier would be private, public, global, protected, and another one would be public with sharing, without sharing, inherited. With sharing, comma, without sharing, inherit, sharing. Okay. So for example, if you mentioned any method, any class, okay, that will be private. Okay. So for example, if you mention, if you use any class name as private, so we cannot able to refer that class in anywhere. We can't able to refer in any other class within the Salesforce. What is private? So private, if you use any class name as private, we can't able to refer that class in any other class. We can't able to refer that class in any other class within the Salesforce. Okay. For example, here we declare, right, name, something like example, private class name. Okay, something private class. So whatever this logic available, okay, so within this it will execute. Okay, for example, you cannot able to refer this private class in any other public classes. Okay, so if you use any class, if you, so most probably private will be occurred for variables, variable declaration. If you mention any variable as private, within the class, so it will not be used in the outside of that class. Simple. So if any class which is contains private, then the class you cannot able to refer in any other Apex class within the Salesforce. For example, if you use any class name with public, if you use any class name as public, you can refer the class in another class within the Salesforce. Okay, for example, if you mention any Apex class which name as public, okay, the public Apex classes you can able to refer in other classes. Okay, you can able to refer in other classes within the Salesforce. So if you mention private, you cannot able to refer in other Apex class. If you mention public, you can able to refer that Apex class in another Apex class. Example is same thing. This one, public class account controller. So this one you can able to refer in any other class. This is a public class. If you have any other class, so there you need one of the method from this account controller. You can use that in that particular Apex class. So like, for example, this is a class 2. Here there is one method here, create an account, right? Public static void create account. This is the method. Okay, this is the method. So I can able to refer this method in account controller dot, here account controller dot create account. Okay, so directly, for example, the reason behind, because this is a public class, this public class will be available in the other public class within the Salesforce. Within the, you cannot able to refer this public class in outside of Salesforce. If you are trying to expose this class to external service or external system, at the time it will not be accessible. Okay, it will throw an error. So the class which is declared with global, the class which is declared as global will be used anyway used anywhere in the Salesforce and outside Salesforce. So if any class which is mentioned, which is declared as global, what does it mean? That class you can able to refer in any of the classes within the Salesforce, as well as you can able to expose that class into outside of Salesforce. That means external system you can able to expose that Apex class. Okay, any class which is mentioned as global we can use within the Salesforce as well as outside of the Salesforce. Outside of the Salesforce. అర్థమవుతుందా? So protected, this class if you mention any, it will be used within the class. So and it will be accessible like protected private most probably same, but somewhat variation will be there. Okay, and for example here you can able to use if any class any variable which is protected, it will be used within the class and it will be used for subclass of that particular class. Okay, and used for subclasses of main class. Okay, protected. And then fifth one, we'll discuss about this one later when we talk about okay, always we'll use while writing the Apex code nowadays it is mandatory while writing any Apex class whether you are doing with sharing or without sharing. Okay, so here what is with sharing, what is with sharing. So already we discussed right sharing rules, same concept will be applying in the Apex class also. Okay, for example public class account controller, right? Account controller. So here by default this one run in system mode. Okay, here you need to first of all what is with sharing and without sharing. With sharing means it will consider the current user sharing rules into the consideration. That means what are all the record, for example if any one of the user have access to student records, then he can able to access by using with sharing. For example if any of the user doesn't have record access, then those records will not be shown. Okay, for example other user who doesn't have account records access, then if he is trying to execute this controller, he doesn't have any records. Okay, so we will explain briefly in future so about what is with sharing, all very important question. So what is with sharing? With sharing is nothing but current user sharing rules are into consideration when we are running the Apex class. Okay, if you mention without sharing, it will run in system mode whether the current user have access to particular record or not, it will not consider. it will show the entire records to the respective user. So public, here what you need to with sharing, with public with sharing. So public with sharing means current user sharing rules into the consideration. So for example, if the current user have access to account records, those records will be displaying. Okay. If the current user doesn't have account access, then if that user trying to run this controller, records will not show. Why? Because he doesn't have sharing rule access. Okay. అర్థమైందా? So for example, here for example, user A have access to account records. So here the method is public static list of account get accounts. There is a method. Okay. For example, in this method, what I'm trying to do, list of account ACC list equals to select ID, comma name, account number from account. So in this case, what it will do, return ACC list. So in this with sharing, for example, in this current account record, so it is running under one of the user A. Okay. At the time, it will show the entire account result. Okay. For example, user B doesn't have account record access. Okay. So in this, so for example, same class, if user B trying to run, then result will be 0. Result is 0 because so he don't have access to account records. అర్థమైందా? సో ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ సేమ్ క్లాస్ I mentioned public with sharing class account controller, public static list of account get accounts. So I'm running this based on user A getting the result. Same class I'm trying to run user B, so I'm not getting the result. Why? Because he doesn't have access to account records. Okay. అర్థమైందా? విత్ షేరింగ్ అంటే current user sharing rules are enforced. Okay. Current user sharing rules are enforced if you are trying to use with sharing. So can you tell about without sharing? Anyone? For example, if I try to same class, I'm trying to run using without sharing. So in this case, without sharing, get of public static list get accounts. So here I'm returning the list of accounts from the database. So in this case, same, but for user B it will change. So when user trying to run this class have access to all the records. Okay, if user B doesn't have account records, even though if you don't have access to account object level, but still he will be able to see the records. So here, for example, if you are running without sharing keyword, so current user sharing rules are ignored. So it will not consider the current user, whether the current user have access to account records or not, it will not check. Okay, this class will show the records to user A, user B. Ardhamainda? That means it will show the records. It will show the records. When you run the same class without sharing, it will show the records. It will show the records. So in the both cases, it will show the records. So same thing will be inherited. So what is the one? Inherited sharing. So I mean it will inherit. For example, if you want to run same properties object, this properties to any inner class, you need to use inherited sharing. Okay, it will use the sharing mode of the current class. So right now you can ignore about inherited sharing. We won't use this one. Please keep it in mind with sharing, without sharing, when we will use. Okay. And if any class which is declared as global, where we can use the class, we can use it within the Salesforce as well as outside of the Salesforce. Okay. Protect, it will be used within the class, used for subclasses of the main class. So, and then public. If you any class which you declare as public, that will be accessible within the Salesforce, and you can able to access that class in another class. Okay. Private. So if you mention any class as private, the class is private class is not visible to any of the other classes. You cannot able to refer those. Okay. Same thing will be applied to private method also. Public method, private method. Public method will be available within the class as well as outside of the class. Private method will be available within the class. It won't be visible to other classes. Okay. And then methods. Okay. Void method and void method, non-void method. So here public static list, right? So the return type of this method is list. Okay, here you can see public static void means the return type of void, so it won't return anything, just it will execute the method. So you cannot able to expect the any return statement. But if you mention here, the return type would be the list of accounts. So if you want to display this list of accounts, you can display in the UI wherever you want. But in this case, just it will create a account record that will not be visible. It won't provide any return parameters. Okay, it won't provide return parameter return values. Okay, public void method, non-void method. So non-void method will be always return the value. So always it should have return statement, either it is null or particular value. But void method should not have return statement. Non-void method should have return statement. Void method should not have return type. Okay, అర్థమైందా? So simply you can say void method, no return value. Void method. So if any method declared with void, no return value. Okay, no return